Hi, I'm Isita Kane Mason, and we're here with a new Frontrunners series with the European Union Youth Orchestra. I'm here in Grafenegg and we're rehearsing Dohnányi Variations on a Nursery Rhyme, and we have a concert tomorrow, and then we're travelling next week to New York to do a concert in Carnegie Hall. So we just started rehearsals today and we're all very excited. I think that engaging an audience is so important, and it's very difficult to do. There are many different ways that you can do it, both online and offline. I think for me personally, I started off by trying to talk in my concerts, and I think if you can talk in a very informal way, maybe make a joke and really kind of connect with the audience, that really helps. And I always felt a different energy during the performances when you make that personal connection through speaking. I think also online, when you share parts of your personal life and kind of things that are more behind the scenes and not kind of so professional and not always seen, that also engages the audience, because then they see you as a human being and they connect with you on a deeper level and then feel more inclined to come and hear you play. So those are two things that I have found really help. But I think there are many other ways that people are trying, and it's very important. At the beginning of my career, I really was usually too nervous to speak at concerts, and I didn't really open up much online. Whereas recently I've been speaking more at concerts. I also try to meet the audience after the concert if that's time, to make more personal connections there. And I've been opening up more of myself online, whether that's sharing more of my personality or just more of what my life is actually like, because I think people like to really get a sense of what your life is like behind what you see on the surface. And so I've been doing more and more of that. I think you can do a lot online these days, and so I think it's always worth posting videos of yourself playing or talking about music. And then I think it's just about making those personal connections. I mean, to build a career, you really have to have personal connections with many people. So going to concerts, talking to people, auditioning for things. I think it sounds so scary and also so cliched, but the more you put yourself out there, the more people will open up to hearing you. And then I think also having your own unique stamp in terms of what you choose. So choose repertoire that you love, and don't be afraid to choose something outside of the box, but also inside of the box if that's what you love. I think the important thing is to put your own personal stamp on whatever you play. From the musical side, I've engaged audiences more by having a wider range of new repertoire, or perhaps undiscovered, not heard as much repertoire, mixed with core repertoire and well-known and well-loved pieces. And the combination of those two things seems to really draw audiences in, because then they feel like they're hearing something familiar and something new. And over time, they start to trust you more to bring them new things. Recently, I recorded an album that was a combination of Felix and his sister Fanny Mendelssohn. And that was a very interesting project, because on there was Fanny Mendelssohn's Easter Sonata, which had been lost for 150 years, so no one really knew it, it was hardly ever performed. And so I recorded this piece alongside the first piano concerto by Felix Mendelssohn, and then some well-known Mendelssohn transcriptions from other composers. And so that's an example of something that combines very well-known repertoire with undiscovered repertoire, and I think that people would hopefully feel inclined to listen to both when they see the overall repertoire of the album. I also recently performed Clara Schumann's Piano Concerto at the BBC Proms, and it was apparently only the second time the piece had been performed at the Proms, and the concert was full and the audience reacted very positively. And so I think these unknown pieces are really coming to the forefront of people's minds. I would say if you're feeling any form of fear at the start of your career, that is the biggest opportunity for learning. I mean, I had to deal with so many performance nerves at the beginning, so many fears, and if I'd given up back then, I never would have grown to who I am now, and I would have really regretted it. And so I think if you enjoy it and you love it, and you also have fear, then you've got to, continue and find ways to grow past that. And it's a journey, but I definitely would say don't give up just for that reason. I would only ever stop if you prefer something else, like you really love something else more than music. But if you love music, that's a strong enough reason to continue. I would definitely advise young musicians to experiment, because there are many different roles, you know, from soloist to orchestral musician to so many other things that perhaps you wouldn't even know about. So I think stay attuned to what you enjoy and be open to new opportunities. Say yes to things, and then through trial and error, you'll know if you enjoy being a soloist on a stage or something a bit different. You also have to prepare for, which I suppose everyone does to an extent, but deadlines. You know, concerts are booked 2 years in advance. You have to give the repertoire many years in advance as well. And so it's quite difficult to say, I will be playing these pieces at this time in 2026, and then, you know, the time comes and maybe you feel like you'd want more time, or maybe you feel like you've outgrown that piece and you want to play something different, but you can't. And so I think it's definitely a learning curve, learning how to practice to a timeline and to put yourself out there and perform, even if you don't feel ready or you're not 100% sure. You still just go and you give yourself and you make something of it, and usually it works out. I think for me, the biggest struggle of being a musician is the travel and having to spend long periods of time by yourself. You know, you're always in new places, you have to practice alone. There's also an upside, you get to meet lots of amazing people, and practicing alone means you can have hyper focus such that you are prepared when you come out onto the stage. But it's definitely a difficult thing to navigate, and I suppose I'm quite lucky that we live in an age where you can call your loved ones even when you're on the other side of the world. From traveling a lot is, it's not that I have to make a big change every time I go somewhere to deal with a different audience. I mean, I bring the same program, and then I have the pleasant surprise of seeing how different audiences react. Sometimes if it's a different language, I might try to do an encore that's tailored to the place I'm in. I think, for example, when I went to Brazil with my brother, we played a Brazilian song as an encore, but that's not always possible. But I try to do that if it is possible. And if not, usually just meeting the audience afterwards, talking to them, getting to know them. And usually I'm learning, you know, I'm bringing myself everywhere I go. I'm bringing the same program, and it's not that you can fully adapt and become a different person each time. It's more that you see how different people respond to you, and that's interesting, and that's something to learn. And what I really learned from traveling is that music is very universal, and people from different cultures and different backgrounds can all appreciate the same piece of music, and I think that's what's very special about it. So I actually did a concert recently, which I did already mention, which was Clara Schumann at the Proms, but I think to say a bit more about it, it really felt like there was a strong connection with the audience, because the atmosphere at the Proms is very much one of celebration. You have a wide range of people who maybe have never been to a classical concert before, and then the hardcore classical concert goers as well. And I really felt like everyone was really listening to the piece. There was such a positive reception, and I knew that many people didn't know the piece because it's not been performed at the Proms much before, and yet I felt like everyone was really engaged with the music, and so that was a really special atmosphere.